Hey there, movie lovers! Welcome back to Fade to Fact, where we uncover the hidden stories and surprising details behind your favorite films. Today, we're clocking in for a shift at Office Space, the 1999 workplace comedy that flopped in theaters but became a cult classic, thanks to DVD's late-night television and the internet's love for quotable lines. If you've ever had a boss like Bill Lumbergh, daydreamed about smashing a printer, or zoned out at your desk for hours, this film probably hits home. Written and directed by Mike Judge, the mind behind Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill Office Space, is a sharp, funny jab at corporate life, complete with endless TPS reports and soul-sucking cubicles. Though it barely made a splash in its initial release, the movie's second life made it one of the most quoted workplace comedies of all time. From "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to come in on Saturday" to Milton's beloved red stapler, it's become a pop culture touchstone for anyone who's ever felt trapped in the 9-to-5 grind. But behind those cubicles is a story you probably don't know, full of unexpected casting choices, on-set mishaps, and real corporate scandals eerily similar to the plot. So grab your coffee, take an extended break, and let's dive into 20 things you never knew about Office Space. 1. Mike Judge's cubicle past inspired the story. Before becoming a filmmaker, Mike Judge worked in real-life corporate jobs and he absolutely hated them. One of his early gigs was at an electronics company, where he spent his days in bland gray cubicles, enduring meaningless meetings and endless paperwork. Many of the little annoyances in the film, from malfunctioning printers to passive-aggressive bosses, came straight from Judge's personal frustrations. He's even said that some of the dialogue in Office Space was lifted almost word for word from things he heard at work. 2. The movie started as Milton Shorts. The character Milton didn't start in the movie. He actually appeared years earlier in a series of animated shorts Mike Judge created for Saturday Night Live and Mad Television. These cartoons featured Milton mumbling about his stapler, being mistreated by his boss, and generally existing in quiet misery. The shorts became so popular that Judge decided to expand the world around Milton, building an entire feature film that captured the bizarre, soul-crushing quirks of office culture. 3. Bill Lumbergh's look was based on a real boss. Gary Cole's unforgettable portrayal of Bill Lumbergh, complete with the monotone voice, slow drawl, and coffee mug, was based on a real-life manager Mike Judge once worked under. Cole studied Judge's Milton Shorts to nail the voice and mannerisms. The result was so spot-on that audiences still cringe at Lumbergh's "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to," because it feels eerily like someone they've worked for. 4. The iconic red stapler didn't exist before the film. Swingline, the stapler company, didn't actually make a bright red model before Office Space. The prop department painted a standard model for Milton to make it visually stand out. After the movie gained its cult following, fans began calling and writing to Swingline asking where they could buy one. The demand got so high that the company finally started producing an official red stapler, which quickly became one of their best-selling products worldwide. 5. Jennifer Aniston almost said no. Jennifer Aniston was at the peak of her Friends fame when she was offered the role of Joanna. The part was smaller than her usual projects, and the studio worried she might turn it down. But Aniston loved the script's offbeat humor and agreed almost immediately. Ironically, her involvement didn't help the film's box office numbers at first, but in later years, her name became a big draw for people discovering the movie on DVD. 6. Stephen Root could barely see in Milton's glasses. Milton's thick, smudged glasses gave him his awkward, hunched-over appearance, but they also made it nearly impossible for actor Stephen Root to see clearly. He often had to squint or feel his way around the set, which accidentally enhanced Milton's odd physicality. The slightly disoriented movements you see on screen weren't just acting. Root was genuinely trying not to bump into furniture or co-stars. 7. The printer smashing scene was filmed like a music video. The famous scene of Peter, Michael, and Samir destroying the office printer was filmed with multiple cameras and edited to hardcore rap music. Mike Judge wanted the sequence to feel like a crime movie revenge montage, complete with slow-motion shots and aggressive close-ups. The printer was an actual broken office machine, and the actors really went to town on it. Fans loved it so much that it's been recreated countless times, becoming one of the internet's most enduring memes. 8. Real office workers played extras. Instead of hiring professional background actors, the production brought in real office workers from nearby buildings to fill Initech's cubicles. This gave the scenes an authentic, lived-in feel. The extras naturally slouched, shuffled papers, and typed with the dead-eyed rhythm of people counting down the minutes until lunch, something you can't fake, no matter how good the acting. 9. Mike Judge played the worst waiter ever. If Joanna's overenthusiastic restaurant boss Stan looked oddly familiar, it's because he was played by Mike Judge himself. Judge gave Stan an exaggerated cheerfulness that bordered on creepy, perfectly contrasting with Joanna's obvious boredom and frustration. His cameo is quick, but it's one of those details that fans love spotting on rewatch. 10. The movie's box office was a letdown. Released in early 1999, Office Space earned just about $12 million during its theatrical run, far less than expected. The marketing failed to capture the film's real humor, and it was given a limited release that kept it off many people's radar. But once it hit DVD and cable, word of mouth spread like wildfire, turning it into one of the most beloved workplace comedies of all time. 11. Ron Livingston. Wasn't the first choice for Peter? Ron Livingston's laid-back performance as Peter is now iconic, but he wasn't the studio's first pick. Casting directors originally considered a few higher-profile names, but Mike Judge pushed for Livingston after seeing him in a smaller indie film. Judge liked his ability to deliver deadpan humor without overacting, which fit Peter's detached, post-hypnosis vibe perfectly. In hindsight, it's hard to imagine anyone else pulling off that balance of cynicism and charm. 12. Sameer's name came from a real coworker. Ajay Naidu's character, Sameer Naginanahar, has one of the most comically difficult names to pronounce, which is exactly the point. Mike Judge admitted the name was inspired by an actual coworker whose name was often butchered in meetings. The long-running joke of people giving up halfway through saying it was pulled straight from Judge's memories of awkward office introductions. 13. The hypnosis scene was almost cut. One of the film's turning points is when Peter is hypnotized into not caring about work. But the studio thought the sequence slowed the pacing and suggested cutting it. Judge fought to keep it in, knowing it was essential to explain Peter's sudden shift in attitude. Without it, audiences might have seen Peter as just lazy rather than liberated. 14. Milton's Stapler sparked real-life office drama. After Office Space became a cult hit, Milton's red stapler started appearing on desks everywhere. But in some real offices, bosses banned it because employees kept borrowing each other's as a joke. Swingline even reported a spike in stapler thefts in the early 2000s, showing just how deeply the movie's humor had seeped into workplace culture. 15. The Initech building has been reused in other productions. The bland, glass-paneled Initech office building was a real location in Austin, Texas. After Office Space, it was used in commercials, television shows, and other films needing a generic corporate backdrop. If it looks familiar outside of Office Space, that's because it's still standing and still just as dull-looking in real life. 16. Mike Judge based Joanna's restaurant on his own awkward job. The chain restaurant where Joanna works, Tchotchkes, was based on a real, fun restaurant Mike Judge once visited. He remembered feeling deeply uncomfortable at the forced cheerfulness and flair rules. The term flair for extra buttons and decorations on uniforms has since become a workplace slang term for pointless, image-obsessed rules. 17. The flair concept outlived the movie. Joanna's boss nagging her about wearing more flair struck such a chord that it entered pop culture language. Real-life chain restaurants like TGI Fridays and Applebee's even reference the scene in training, either to encourage or to make fun of excessive uniform accessories. Some employees have even cited Office Space as the reason customers tease them about flair to this day. 18. The plot was loosely inspired by a real banking scam. The scheme to steal fractions of a cent from transactions wasn't entirely fiction. Mike Judge heard about a real-life computer fraud case involving a similar idea where stolen fractions eventually added up to huge sums. Of course, in Office Space, things spiral out of control far faster, but the core concept came from an actual news story. 19. The ending was originally very different. In the original script, Peter, Michael, and Sameer were caught and had to face the consequences of their scam. But during rewrites, Judge decided it was funnier, and oddly more satisfying, to have the problem resolve itself through a fire set by Milton. The studio agreed it was a stronger comedic payoff and kept the twist. 20. The film's legacy changed workplace comedy forever. While it wasn't a hit on release, Office Space influenced an entire generation of workplace comedies, from The Office to Parks and Recreation. Its deadpan tone, relatable frustrations, and offbeat characters proved that corporate life could be hilarious if you looked at it from the right angle. Today, it's not just a movie, it's a shared language for anyone who's ever survived a soul-sucking job. And that's Office Space, the workplace comedy that went from a quiet 1,999 release to one of the most quoted cult classics ever. Somehow, a story about cubicles, bosses, and broken printers still feels as fresh today as it did 25 years ago. From Mike Judge's real-life office frustrations to a red stapler that became a bestseller, the making of this film is full of quirks as funny as what ended up on screen. Even if you've never worked in a cubicle, chances are you've met your own Bill Lumbergh, that person who shows up just to make your day a little worse. Thanks to DVDs, late-night television, and the internet, Office Space became more than a movie, it became a shared language for anyone stuck in the 9-to-5 grind. And judging by how often it's still quoted, smashed printers and all, its legacy isn't going anywhere. Thanks for watching Fade to Fact. Like, subscribe, and we'll be back soon with more untold stories from the movies you love.